Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Vida Jeevan Smaranam Govinda Govinda. Sadhguru Maharaj ki Jai. Shrikanto Matulo Yascha Janni Sarvangala. Janagaha Shankaro Devaha Dambande Kunjaranam. Vakunda Nallamunamunda Mamalarano Kunda Meniungade. பூக்கொண்டு துப்பாத்திரி வேலி தும்பிக்கை ஆம்பாந்த பாமல் சார்வார் தமக்கு ஜன்மாத்யஸ்சகிதோன்வயாதிதர்த்தார்த்தியோஷு அவிக்னஸ்வராட் தேனே பிரம்மகிருதாய ஆதிகவே முஹ்யந்தியச்சூரயः தேஜோவாதிபிருதா யதா வினிமயோத்தத் சர்கோ மிருஷா ராம்னாஸ்ய நசரான்யஸ்தலோகம் சத்யம் பரம் தீமஹி தர்மப்ரோச்ட கைதவோத்திர பரமோ நிர்மத்சராணாம் சதாம் வேத்யம் வாசமத்தரவஸ்ய தாபத்ரயோன்மூலனம் Srimad Bhagavate Mahamnigade Kimva Parairishwaraha Sadhyo Davrudade Tadvivishu Sabistakshanat Nigamakalpadaro Veritam Palam Sukamukad Utrasayutam Vivada Bhagavatam Rasamalayam Uvaraho Rasikaha Vimavakaha Narayanam Namaskritya Naransenarottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tado Jayam Nirayed Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Madhav Govindaya Namo Namaha Nama Sankirtanam Yasya Sarvabhava Pranashanam Pranamo Dukkasam Nama Verimpram Shri Haraye Namaha Shri Haraye Namaha Shri Haraye Namaha Gopika Jivnasmaranam Govinda Govinda Sadhguru Maharaj ki Jai. By the grace of Shivapati Srimad Narayana, I am really blessed to take part in Radha Ashtami celebration. That too, I am very privileged to speak about Hamsa Upadesham, which is vital in Srimad Bhagavatham. That too in 11th canto, Ekadasa Skandam. As we go through Bhagavatham, as we read Bhagavatham, as we refer the columns of Srimad Bhagavatham, there you see Ekadasa Skandam that talks about liberation. And many, they find it a bit very, they find it they call it placid. Why? Because it deals with Vedanta. That is the only thing which the people find a bit placid, and they approach it in a casual way. And when it comes to 10th canto, that is Dasama Skandam, people will be overjoyed in listening to it. Why? It mainly talks about Bhagavan's Divya Leela and how he killed the Asuras and how he lured the gopis and how he equally treated Arjuna. And you see the friendship and you see how he saved the Pandavas from amidst all the dangers. That's why Jnaneshwar Maharaj said in his Haripad, Dwarake Charana Pandava Gari. Even though he is Dwarkadish, even though he was the patriarch of the Dwarka kingdom, but he remained a loyal servant to the Pandavas. That highlighted the devotion, the bhakti being displayed by the Pandavas as well as by Uddhava. And you see the various kind of devotees, they have showered their bhakti towards Bhagavan. You see the stories of Gopi, while you see Gopi, at one point you see Uddhava, and you see Akrura, and you see all the people from the Vishnu clan. They have showered devotion towards Bhagavan. As well as Arjuna, who has treated Lord Krishna as his own friend. Like many examples I can say, and many stories I can say, many anecdotes I can say, while taking Dasava Skandam as a reference. But in Ekadasa Skandam, it starts with the annihilation of the Yadukula dynasty. And you see Lord in a very casual state. Even though his people, everyone were being killed. by their own ploy and by their own ill fate, they have been killed. But you look at God's maturity, you look at Krishna's maturity. He was unperturbed. And that is also separates Uddhava. And Uddhava also asked him, at this state, how you are unperturbed? To reveal that secret by using Uddhava as a pretext. He also gave the world this wonderful Upadesha, that is Uddhava Gita, which is present in Ekadasa Skandam. If a person reads that, if a person hears that, automatically he will be liberated. As in my Sampradaya, always during the conclusion, I would tell you the benefits. But while starting the pravachan itself, I have told you the benefit of reading Ekadasa Skanda. As while coming to the topic in 13th chapter, there Bhagavan previously elucidated about the Avaduta Gita, about how Bhagavan's preceptor Avaduta initiated Yadu Maharaja by seeing the whole world as Guru, which we have seen in the last year pravachan in Bangalore. Right now, this year I am focusing on Hamsa Upadesha. There Bhagavan starts in 13th chapter, Sattvam Rajastama Iti Guna Buddhena Chatmanaha Sate Nanyatamo Hanyat Sattvam Sattena Chaivahi. In that he talks about the three gunas, the triads. As Bhagavan said in Gita, Trivil Gunamaye Bhavehi, Yevi Sarva Vidam Tatam, Moitam Navijanati Mamebhyaha Padamavyam, which Bhagavan highlights in Gita that Trivil Gunamaye Bhavehi. The three different expressions, that is the triads, that Yevi Sarva Vidam Tatam, and that encompasses the entire universe. On its confluence, the person acts in the world, or else he would be like Bhagavan, unperturbed, in a bliss state. Because of the confluence of these three worlds, the person acts in the world. The person walks in this world. The person eats his own food. The person is in his own sense because of these three gunas. And the similar thing Bhagavan said, what he said in Gita, he tells in Uddhava Gita. Sattvam Rajastama Iti Guna Buddherna Chatpanaha. That is the three gunas, they belong to the intellect. Guna Buddhehe, they belong to the intellect. And later he adds that Satyenani Tamo Hanyas Sattvam Satyena Saivahi. And the two gunas, that is the Rajasa and the Tamasa gunas. If I say Rajasa, that means you have the Rajasa derives from the word Raj. That means granules. One meaning you can say granules. Other is the heat. The heat that is being generated by one's involvement in his own work. That I can say Rajas. Rajas, many people they may call Rajas means a person who's always short-tempered, who shouts for no reason, who's always in-tempered, who's always bad-tempered. You call that as Rajas. But that is one meaning I can say. Another meaning is his dedication, his firm conviction in his own work is also Rajas. And that is positive only when his mind is evoked to Sattva Guna. And the third one is Tabas. That's why Pramada Alasya Nidrabhi Tanni Patnadi Bharata, which Bhagavan tells Arjuna that Pramada Alasya. That is the worst case. As many people, they interpret Pramadam in Tamil, they say it's Pramadam means excellent, wonderful, splendid. But the real meaning Pramadam means Pramadaha, Pramaditavyaha, that leads to destruction, that leads to annihilation. That is the word Pramada means. Where if a person who's deluded, who's encompassed, who's influenced, who's under confluence of Tamoguna will lead to his own destruction. And that Tamoguna has to be annihilated by Sattvam Satvena Chaivihi, just by mere Sattoguna. And what is the Sattoguna? Bhagavan said in next sloka, Sattva Dharmo Bhaved Vriddha Pumso Madbhatti Lakshanaham Satviko Pasaya Sattvam Ato Dharma Pravartade. He highlights the importance of Dharma. As Ekadasa Skanda speaks about Advaitam, pure Bhakti speaks about. And the pure bhakti is the embodiment of Radha. Since it is Radha Ashtami, I have brought, I am speaking about Radha. And the Radha is what? The Radha is the embodiment of Prema. That is why Bhagavan is always with Radha. Even though Bhagavan has 16,108 wives. And why Bhagavan is not celebrated with those wives? And why Bhagavan is always worshipped with Radha? This is because only by unconditional love, without expecting anything from Bhagavan, that leads a one step forward, and that leads with the association with Bhagavan. Just by unconditional love. That shows Radha. And gopis, they show affection towards Bhagavan. Radha is none other than the head of the gopis, the primary head of gopis. And she is the collection of all the bhavas exhibited by the gopis, which I can say about Radha. And how to achieve in that state is, one is by for adhering the principles of Dharma. That's what Bhagavan has highlighted. Satvigo pasaya sattam ato dharma pravartate. That Dharma is attained, that Dharma's main fruit is Satvigo pasaya. To attain that Sattva Guna. That's what Bhagavan has said in his previous sloka. He has continued in the second sloka. Satvigo pasaya. That is by sheer love, sheer devotion, sheer bhakti you are showering towards Bhagavan. That is the Satvigo pasaya. Then he speaks about the Dharma. That Dharma's main benefit is Bhagavad Bhakti, which Bhagavan says in the third sloka. Dharmo rajastamo hanyat sattva vidya anuttamaha ashu nascharitan mulo hedharmo ubaye hate. And by following the Dharma, hanyat sattva vriddhi anuttamaha, hanyata sattva vriddhi. And that puts an end to the sattva rajoguna and tamoguna in that, by following the Dharma. Because we follow Dharma, that's not wrong and that's not incorrect. But the problem is, we expect something. If we pray to God, if we pray to the 9 planets, that is the Navagraha, by visiting in Kumbakonam, which is my native place, such that our problems will be solved, such that everyone will recognize me, everyone will shower love and affection towards me. For we are doing Dharma in such a way that our things has to be gratified, our wishes has to be fulfilled. And we have to be in the limelight for for lifelong. We have to be in the limelight. Wherever I go, people have to speak about me. As we crave for fame, we crave for fame. That is the main problem. We expect while we are adhering to Dharma. And by unconditional love, at the same time, by following Dharma steadfastly, Hanyat Sattva Vriddhi Anuttamaha, by the gradual increase, it destroys Rajas and Tamas. Ashu Nashati Tanmuloho, Yadharmo Hubaye Hate. Then our mind would always contemplate on doing Adharma, because it's a very easy way. To follow Dharma, you have to be calm and you have to be composed. But the person to do Adharma, it is very easy, it is very casual. And that state of mind will be abolished. That state of mind will be eradicated by following Dharma with unconditional love, by showering prema, and at the same time with utmost bhakti, utmost sincerity. It leads to that state, which Bhagavan first starts this chapter, the Hamsa Upadesham, by giving the 3 gunas. And slowly Uddhava asks him the question. Uddhavo vacha vidanti martya prayena visayan padama padam hatavi bunjade Krishna takkatam sakarajavate. Like Uddhava was very despondent, he was very worried by looking at the people. Even though following Dharma with steadfastness is very easy, and that is the easy way to attain God. As in mathematics, a maths teacher gives us the definition of straight line. And the what is the definition? If you ask me, I will tell you that straight line is the is, is the connection between the 2 points that is unidirectional. What do you mean unidirectional? And what do you mean 2 points? Which inherently arouses a question in our mind. The different distance between the 2 points, you call it a straight line. And how do you say it is straight? In curved, it travels from one place to another. In curves, it shows some curvature. You can say curve also, it is the connection between 2 points. And why do you say it's a unidirectional connection between the 2 points? That shows if a person with utmost steadfastness, with utmost perseverance, if he follows Dharma, he will directly reach, he will directly be in association with Bhagavan. And that shows, and that mathematical definition shows us the connection between Jivatma, between us and Bhagavan. That is Dharma. Which Uddhava says that it is a very easy way to attain God just by following Dharma. But look at the people, Vindanti Matyaha Prayena Vishayan Padamapadam. For the sake of sensual gratification, Padamapadam, they really become subjected to danger. And Tatapi Munjade Krishna Takkadam Sukaradavate. And they run behind sensual pleasures like a dog, like an ass, or like a goat. So Karajavate. And to them, what is the essence which Uddhava asks? And he asks with utmost humbleness. That shows a person. That shows the quality of a Shishya. How he has to be. That's why in Gita this says, Sishyasteham Shadimam Tvam Prapannam. The origin of Gita is because of Arjuna's sheer humility. Even though he lamented of the Dharma and the consequences of the Mahabharata war, even by looking at Bhishma, his grandfather, by looking at his revered teacher Drona, and looking at all the Kauravas who were his cousins, by simply mercilessly killing them, it is of no use. And what's the point in attaining the Rajya, the kingship, in Hastinapura? And what's the point in slaying them, which is adharma? And no one will do Shraddha to the departed ones. And they will be karma hina. They will be devoid of doing karma. So to prevent that, Arjuna also told Krishna that he is not interested to the wall. Better I would attain asceticism. Better I would be a sannyasi. Sheyo bhoktum bhaiksham apiya loke. But Bhagavan condemned his act by saying that Klaibhyam asma gama partha. Whatever statements you have put forth before, they are of no value. And that shows your sheer intelligence. So, Shuddham Hridaya Dodbharam Tattotishta Parantava. Forbid your power, forbid your weakness, get up and be prepared for the war, which Bhagavan tells him. Bhagavan condemns Arjuna's words, but even though he couldn't get out of that shell, and in his subconscious mind, it tells him that whatever you spoke is of utter useless, no value, was of no value. And that mind made him to surrender Bhagavan. Shishyasteham Sharimam Tvam Prapannam. That surrender which Arjuna has showered towards Krishna had made Lord Krishna to deliver a 700 sloka Bhagavad Gita. And the same humility Uddhava showered to Bhagavan. The same Bhagavan delivered us Ekadasa Skandam, such that if a person reads it, he would attain liberation. He would be liberated during his lifetime. Which Uddhava requests Bhagavan that what should a mortal like us can do? What should he do? Which he requests Bhagavan, and Bhagavan says, Putra Hiranyagarbhasya Manasa Sanakadaya Paprachupitram Sukshma Yogas Eikantiking Gatim, which Bhagavan starts with the story of Sanaka Brahma's sons, Sanakumaras, and their conversation with Bhagavan. And before that, Bhagavan says, Ahamitya Natya Buddhi, Ramatasya Gitagriti, Utsarpati Rajo Goram, Ato Vaikarikam Manaha. Here he tells the nature of the heart. Ahamiti Yata Buddhi, Pramatasya Gitagriti. And in this heart, Ahamiti Yata Buddhi. And this intellect, what it is, no, Pramatasya Gitagriti. It gives us the wrong idea that I alone exist. I am vital in this universe. Utsarpati Rajogoram Tato Vaikarikam Manaha. That automatically what happened? Utsarpati Rajo Goram. Automatically that Rajas, that heat generates. Tato Vaikarikam Manaha. And that curbs the Sattva And he slowly explains the process. And he slowly explains the process, but even though Uddhava says that Yogam Adishtava Vanetat Parimitsati Veditum, and Uddhava further reiterates that what you have previously advised the Sanakadikas. Tell me that story. Even though I am convinced with whatever you say, I am impressed with whatever you say, but my mind, I am even more convinced such that I want to hear the story of Hamsa Upadesha from Thai mouth, which Uddhava requests, and slowly Bhagavan says, Putra Hiranya Garbhasya Manasa Sanagadeha Prapochu Pitram Sukshmam Yoga Saikanti Katim. First they ask their father Brahma Yoga Saikanti Katim. What is the way? What is the subtle and essence way to attain Bhagavan? Saikantiking Katim. And what is a single way to attain Bhagavan? Which they ask, and later they Sarakarika starts Guneshwasu Viside Cheto, Gunas Chetasi Yaprabo, Katamanyonya Santiago, Mukshuhu Atiti Shadoho, Guneshwa Visade Cheto, Gunas Chetasi Yaprabo. And he says, and they talk about the nature of the Gunas, the triads. Guna Chetasita Prabho. These gunas, these triads curb the mind. Katamanyonya Santiago, Mukshoho Atidishatoho. And they give an example of a Bubukshu, one who is always interested in liberation, and one who always thinks that liberation is the primary goal for a person to attain. And everyone has the question. You speak about liberation and what to do in this material world, because lot of commitments they curb me, and even though I'm interested in doing spiritual practice, but this mind is not interested. But the situation is causing me to yield myself in this world. But my mentally, I wanted to do lot of sadhana. I am deeply interested in doing that, but this mind is preventing me. What to do such that mind must not always contemplate on these worldly pleasures. I want this mind to contemplate on Bhagavan. That is the one dharma which everyone can follow. And it is beneficiary to everyone. And what is the dharma which Sanagadika asks Bhagavan? And by first they asked Brahma, and Brahma has showed the direction to Bhagavan. I am not a person to answer. And along with Brahma, Sanagadika asked the question to Bhagavan. Then Katamanyonya Satyago Mukshu Atitishatoho. And that defines the quality of a Mukshu. And how did they get rid of the three gunas which curb the person in the samsara? And slowly Bhagavan with this pleasant smile he answers, Evam Brishto Mahadevaha Swayambhu Bhutava Vanaham Jayamana Prashtabijam Nabhya Paddhata Karmadihi. Even though Bhagavan, after hearing the wonderful, excellent question from Sanakadika, he says, Jayamana Prashtabijam Nabhya Paddhata Karmadihi. He thinks, after contemplating on the root of the question, because Bhagavan slowly Jayamana Prashtabijam Nabhya Nandata Karmadihi, Nabhya Paddhata Karmabihi. And his mind was sent in the work. He slowly gets down to that level and started answering those questions. Samama Chintayat Devaha Rashtaparadishaya Tasyaham Amsarupena Sakashamagamattada. Then Bhagavan, out of sheer grace and compassion, he has incarnated to the Sanakadikas in a form of swan. Tatavam Amsarupena Sakasham agamam tada. In the form of swan, he appeared to them. And Drishtva Bhavta Upaprajya Kutva Padabhivandanam Brahmanamagrata Kritva Vaprachukko Bhavaniti. And they all touched, including Brahma, touched that Bhagavan's feet, and they all showered respect to him. And slowly Bhagavan started answering to them. Vastito Yadina Natva Atmana Prasta Idrijaha Katam Katedavo Vipa Bhakturva Vedrashrayaha. He says that even though the question refers to the Atman, Atmanaha Prasta Idrijaha Katam Katedavo Vipra, then the reality, even though it is being one and undivided, he says that that question is inadmissible. And he further says that on what grounds shall the speaker stand? Which he slowly gives them the Atmopadesha, and that talks about that how to control the mind. And how to control the mind, how to control the action of the mind. Manasa vachasa drishta uhyate anne rapindriyahi ahameva mattonyat iti buddhyatva manjasa. And he gives us the signal that you have to slowly contemplate on that manasa vachasa, on that mind, on which consequence, on which confluence the mind enacts. The person right now is in front of you. Yesterday he was present. He was enjoying with you. By association, you went to a lot of temples. And he was listening to your upanyasam. He was listening to your discourse. On the next day, due to sudden heart attack, he has departed. And that shows his temporary presence, which you can say. But our mind always thinks about that person, because we have lived with him for the past 24 years. And that mind always contemplates on that person. And that mind always thinks about that person, that because of our bad karma, because of our bad adherence towards, because of our adharma, the person has departed. Which our mind always contemplates on that. And Bhagavan gives us the hint that Manasa Vachasa Drishya. He tells us to see our mind invertedly. That is the Upadesha Samatravadass gave to Shivaji Maharaj. In his last days, at the age of 44, he has become the Chhatrapati. But by annihilating, by destroying, by balancing, not balancing, by reducing the power of the Mughals under the leadership of Aurangzeb, he wanted to put an end to Shivaji's power, valor. He was really jealous, and he was thirsty in establishing his own religion, Islam, all over India. Like Pakistan, like Bangladesh, by Afghanistan. He had a vision of establishing his own religion, Islam, all over the world, all over India. But that was curbed by Shivaji under the tutelage of Swami Samartha Ramdas. Because of Samartha Ramdas, we are able to follow our dharma freely, with no one disturbing, with no one backstabbing us. We are able to follow dharma secularly. That I can say secular. We are able to follow dharma with sheer love and affection. Because of Samartha Ramdas' vision and Shivaji Maharaja's power. At the age of 44, he became a Chhatrapati. But in his family, his second wife was very treacherous. She didn't want his elder son Sambhaji to be the king of, to be the higher apparent. She wanted her son Rajaram to dethrone Sambhaji. In such a way, she has performed the Vamachara. That is the tantric way to attain success in a shortest way, in a shortcut way, I can say, which she tried, such that Sambhaji would fall sick often. He would lose his power, And that has bothered a lot to Shivaji Maharaj, and he complained to Samat Ramdas about that. And Samat Ramdas said, even though Samat Ramdas was with him, especially in slaying Inayat Khan, who was doing drug trafficking, in slaying Afzal Khan, in pretext of the treaty, he wanted to slay Shivaji. He was the first, Samat Ramdas was the person who had made Shivaji understood, who had helped him in crossing the Pratapgarh fort. In each and every achievement, Samat Ramdas was behind him. And he taught him warfare at the same time about our dharma. Everything Samat Ramdas taught to Chhatrapati Shivaji, especially the guerrilla warfare, which we see in Shivaji Maharaja's story. They highlight about guerrilla warfare that was primarily taught by Samat Ramadas in how to tackle the Mughals who fight in a crooked way, who fight in a false way. As Bhagavan said, Maya Charo, Maya Varditavyaha, Sadhva Charo, Sadhuna Varditavyaha. In Mahabharata, he has shown that Maya Charo, Maya Varditavyaha. To those in a cunning manner, to those who approach us in a cunning manner, we have to respond them in a cunning manner. To those who approach us formally, we have to respond them formally, which Bhagavan tells, which Bhagavan has showed in Mahabharata. The same principle Samat Ramdas taught Chhatrapati Shivaji. And at the time he was very worried that he couldn't control his family. If a person who is a Mughalai, who is a Mughal, he can tackle him. But the problem is internally affecting our own heart and our own health. My health is getting deteriorated because of that. And he asked his Gurudev Samat Ramdas what to do. What shall I do? Which Samat Ramdas told, draw all the mind inside and keep your mind inherent. Which Samat Ramdas told Upadesham. Same thing Bhagavan said. Manasa, Vachasa, Vacha. We have to contemplate on how the mind is being exhibited, how the mind reacts in terms of Prakriti. And Vachasa. And how whatever the mind contemplates, it comes out through mouth. Drishtva Grihyate Anner Apindriyaihi. And all the organs and its way. Ahameva the Mattonya Diti Buddhyam Avanjasa. Through that, you have to understand the action played by the mind, the action played by the words, the action played by the sight organs. You have to understand that I am present in that. That is what Bhagavan iterated in Gita. Matta Parataram Nanyate Kinchit Dhiranjaya. I am always present, I am always omnipresent. Mahi Sarva Vidam Protam Sutre Maniganaiva. Like in the anklets, how I remain as the balls. Similarly, because of these balls, the anklet jingles. If there is no balls in that, the anklet won't jingle. You won't get the jingling sound. The same way Bhagavan is inside each and every limb of our body. Because of his presence, you are being approached by others. You are being respected by others. And everyone speaks to you. And everyone converses with you. And everyone looks at you. Why? Because Bhagavan is present in our body. In each and every limb of the body, Bhagavan is present. If a person departs, you won't be addressed. They would ask, where did you dispose this body? Where is it? And where it should be cremated? The word it is used. Why? Because Bhagavan is in there. Bhagavan has departed from that body. When Bhagavan has departed from that body, the body has no value. The body will have no value and it won't be respected. Even though it hurts the others' mind. Even though it hurts others' people's mind, because they were left alone, because of the blood relation. Apart from the blood relation, because of the presence of Bhagavan, it has made them to recollect, to reconsider, and to remind about their memories and the relationship with other person. Because of the presence of Bhagavan. That's what, while doing upanyasam, whatever we do, Yasyatma Bhutasya Guru Prasadat. All by Guru's grace. That Guru inherently enters in our body and makes us to say what sloka am I supposed to say and what sloka I have to give a detailed explanation on that, which Bhagavan gives that, which Bhagavan inside makes a person to speak. Like Bhagavan gives us the secret that we have to focus on the flow of the Indriya. And the flow of the Indriya is because of the presence of Bhagavan, which Bhagavan tells, and he gives us the important information about his presence in our body. And later he says, Panchatmakeshu Bhuteshu Samaneshu cha Vastutaha. Sorry. Yo jagare Vairukshana Dharminortan Bhukte Samasta Karne Gritat Sadukshan Swapne Susuta Upasamharite cha Ekaha Svutyantyavat Triguna Vritti Digindriyeshaha. First he says, Yo jagare Bhagiranushana Dharminotan. He first talks about the body, the movement of the body. Yo jagare. One a person is in the waking state. Bhairanukshana dharminortan. In outer world, how he enjoys of the wealth he had accumulated previously. Bhumte samasta karane giri tat sadrikshan. And he eats whatever the benefits which he have accumulated. If a person works with conviction and how other people berate him because of his adamance, that if he is steadfast in following the Ekadasi Vrata, the same thing Bhattadri said, Ganga Gita Chakayatriya Gopika Chandramja Chalakramaya Tuja Ekadasi Nama Varna. By following the Shipra Mutti Pradasya in Narayaniam he says, the same sloka Bhattadri said in Narayaniam. Even though he tells that Bhagavan in the form of Hamsa, in the form of Hamsa Avatara, initiates Shanakarika as well as Brahma. He gives them the Upadesham. And at the same time, he also speaks about Bhakti, the ways to attain liberation, the ways to attain salvation, which I can say in giving a pakka English translation of Bhakti, salvation, I can say. Simple words. Ganga Gita cha Gayatriya. By having the relationship which confines, which attracts Bhagavan. Ganga, that comes from Bhagavan's divine Sri Paduka. Gita, from Bhagavan's Vak. As Bhagavan says, Shruti Smriti Bhamaivagya. The both Shruti and Smriti, the two limbs of the Vedas, they all are Bhagavan's divine commands. Gita and Bhagavad Gita speaks about Shruti and Smriti. It is also called as Shruti because it came from Bhagavan's Vak, Bhagavan's mouth. And that's why by daily parayana of Bhagavad Gita, and that creates an association with Bhagavan. That's why Acharya said, Bhajagovindam, Bhagavad Gita, Kinchadita, Ganga Jalalava Ganika Bita, Sakirdapi Ye, Murari Samarcha, Kirate Tasa Yameva Nacharcha, Bhajagovindam, Govindam, Bhajamudamate. The same thing what Bhattadri has said, our Acharya has said in simple Bhajagovindam, Mohamudgaram, Bhagavad Gita, Kinchit Gita. If you can't read the 700 slokas of Bhagavad Gita, Kinchit Gita, read at least one sloka. Read at least one half of the sloka. Ganga Jalalava Ganika Pita. I can't afford to travel to Banaras. I don't have that much money. I can't travel by train. I can't board a flight in Lal Bahadur Shastri Airport, which I can't do that. What I can do? If a person gives a Ganga Jal, drink one drop. The same thing Acharya said, Bhagavad Gita Vapire, Nira Matra Shnogam, Vigata Iva Trishna, Krishna Maradayami. And I wanted to quench my thirst in this samsara, which is the reason for my hunger. To quench my thirst, I wanted to stay in Ganga. The same Ganga, in the Ghats of Ganga, Parikshit was initiated Bhagavatham. In that same Ghats of Ganga, I wanted to stay here for 1 day. For 1 year, I want to stay here. Why? Vigata Vrisaya Trishna Krishna Maharadayami. To serve Krishna, I wanted to stay in Ganga for 1 year just by drinking your divine water, by drinking the divine Tirtha from Ganga. That is enough. Ganga Jalanam Ganika Pita Sakridapiye Murari Samarcha. Worship Bhagavan once. If you worship Bhagavan one time, just one time in your lifetime, Krete Tasya Yameva Nacha. Yameva Nachacha. Yamadharmaraja won't interfere in your life. He would go to you and offer his place for salvation. That's what in Dhruva's story it was Mrityor Murti Vadamta Aroha Dhrupadam, which is said in Bhagavatham, which Yamadharma showed his head and Dhruva kept his feet on Yamadharma Raja and attained moksha and became the celestial Dhruva Nakshatra, as said in Dhruva's story, which Yama would show his head. And that is the reason such that he would bear the feet of Bhagavatas. He would bear the feet of Bhagavatas. To show the importance of Vairukshana Dharminottan, Bhumte Samasta Karani Tat Sadikshan. There he says that the objects Bhumte Samasta Karani Hridi Tat Sadikshan. Whatever the person who eats, and at the same time Samasta Karanehi Hridi Tat Sadikshan. And in the dream, he experiences similar what he felt in the heart. स्वप्ने सुषुप्त उपसंहरते स एकः स्मृत्यन्तवा त्रिगुणवृत्ति दिगेन्द्रियेशः and the same Atman, the person who witnesses the functionality of the organs, and that proves the persistence of memory of all the states. The memory is Ishvara, which Bhagavan shows that to the person who is deluded. For a person who is in a delusion, it is Bhagavan. To the person who is in a waking state, such that he can see the entire world around him, surrounding him, that waking state is Bhagavan. And he is the person. That's why Bhokta, Vrajishtuhu Bodhanam Bhokta, Saishtu Jagadaj, said in Sahasranamam, he is called as Bhokta. Why he is called as Bhokta means one who bears the fruit. He is the one who bears the fruit of those who see the world. He is a Sakshi, which Bhagavan said in this 32nd sloka. And then he talks about the Jnani and how his indifference towards his body. Deham nashwaram avasthitam uttitam va siddho na pashan nigato adhyagavat swarupam devadu bedam deval vashadu bedam vaso yata parigitam madira madantaha, which is the vital important sloka in Hamsa Upadesham. Very famous sloka. Vaso yata parigitam madira madantaha. There he compares with the drunkard. And we all find it it will create a sense of dejection, especially to the listeners. Because we have started in a good flow. Suddenly, you are giving an example of a drunkard. Because we are tired of this old world. Everywhere they speak about drinking is injurious to health. Drinking is injurious to health. They create advertisement in cinema, in every theater, especially in those packets. They show drinking is injurious to health. To those, they also caution. And why suddenly in the sloka they are given example of Vasoyata Madira Badantaha? Why they are given the example of the drunkard? He drinks in such a way that his mind was always contemplating on that glass of rum, and that makes the person entangled, encircled. At the same time, it made him engrossed in the flavor of the rum, such that he would forget the world of what the sorrows happen along the world. The same thing you could see in a state of a jnani. What he would be means, Deham na nashwaram avasthitam uttitam va. He won't bother about the presence of the body. If it's present, if it's absent, he won't care. Like how Ramana Maharshi was. In his last days, we see the book Day by Day with Bhagavan. In his autobiography, you see, 1 year he was contracted with sarcoma cancer. The cancer was first, it attacked his knees, and slowly it circulated to the appendix, and it has formed a big layer on that. And at the same time, in his shoulder, blood was oozing, and worms were ready, and the worms were circulating around his arm, around his shoulder, and they were ready to devour his blood. And people couldn't tolerate some kind of maleficent tumor around his abdomen. At the same time, blood oozing continuously from his hand, and they were doing a treatment, ultra UV treatment to him. And everyone were very concerned that they were the person who have considered. They told the doctor to do UV treatment to Bhagavan. They have conditioned, and Bhagavan accepted because of their interest, their self-interest. He has accepted, but internally, Dehamna Nashwaram Avasthiti Muttidamba. He wasn't bothered about the body's condition. Siddhona Pashyati Gato Adyagavat Swarupam. I can tell this example with reference to Ramana Maharshi's story. In his last days, if you read that episode, it is really breathtaking. And you can't imagine, and you can't speak about Ramana Maharshi. And you can't even bow about Ramana Maharshi's glory. And you can't say about it. And that showed his prowess. That, and why he is called as Maharshi, as praised by his confident Kavya Kanta Ganapati Muni. He was a person who called Ramana Bhagavan as Ramana Maharshi. Why he was addressed as Ramana Maharshi, which you can see in his final days, before he departed this world, by giving them Atmopadesha silently, ever available, ever reliable in his lifetime. At that time, people asked him, was it paining? Was your body paining? He wasn't concerned, he was unperturbed. And he said that it is paining. And does it bother you? It didn't bother me. Because I am not the body. The body is undergoing a sense of destruction. I am totally detached from this body. Siddhona Pashyati Yato Adhyagamat Sarupam. Siddhahana Pashyati. He doesn't care about the well-being of the body, the well-builtness of the body. And at the same time, Adhyagamat Sarupam. They were reclined on its own self. Devadu Vedapata Deva Vashadu Vedam. Why? Because Devadu Vedapata. They were conquered by Bhagavan. Deva Vashadu Vedam. Since they were conquered and controlled by Bhagavan, their mind is inclined towards the self rather than this outward self. In a similar way, how a drunkard who's been intoxicated by the flavor of the wine or the rum, instead of looking outside of the world, he behaves in an infatuated and intoxicated way. The same way the person who is in a state of jnana will behave in this world, could be in this world. Which, and later he says in this next sloka, Dehopi Deva Vashakaha Kalu Karmayavate Swarangam Prati Samikshita Eva Sasuhu Tat Tamsa Pramansa Dura Samadhi Yoga Swapnam Punanna Vajde Prati Buddha Vastuhu. Even though they weren't bothered about the body, they have a clear understanding that Dehopi Deva Vashaka Kalu Karmayavate Deva Vashakaha, and it is under the control of a destiny, which we can't accept it. A person who was well built, who always concerned about his own body, whenever he goes to office, he would be neatly dressed and clean shaved. And if you look at his son, who has slightly growed a beard, to him he says, please shave. You look like an ugly person. You look ugly. And it doesn't suit you. It gives us a sickly look. Please shave. Which he addresses his own son. Even though his son was also in a state that if I slightly shave with the razor, it will hurt my skin. It would damage the skin cells, even though he had the knowledge. But his father always insists on clean shave because that creates the best impression on others' mind, which a person lived on that expectation, such that people would respect him by doing sheer hard work, by being ever loyal to the company. The person showed that much responsibility and that much love and affection towards the company. And at the same time, he was also burdened that even though he worked for 28 years in this field, he wasn't respected. And he had the feeling that he wasn't respected. At the same time, he couldn't speak to his wife, who was very devoted, who wanted his husband to indulge in satsanga. His husband was partially interested. I can say he's partially interested. But suddenly, he had to leave this body. He was just 54 years. He had to leave his body. He had to leave this body. And his wife was very unhappy. Even though she, out of sheer love and affection, she listened to Bhagavatham, which he also coaxed his husband to listen to Bhagavatham, even though he had a lot of work pressure. With sheer attention, she has listened to Bhagavata. And even though he just heard of Bhagavata and he mistaken Bhagavata as Bhagavad Gita, that person has mistaken. Even though he has mistaken as Bhagavata as Bhagavad Gita, he has listened with some attention, I can say. And on some day he has left this world. He died. And that has really affected one person. And that has really affected his own wife, that even though she did lot of spiritual practice, she couldn't save her husband. Why? Dehopi Deva Vasagaha Karu Karma Yavate. As Bhagavan said, Dehopi Deva Vasagaha. By Bhagavan's will written on one's individual's head. If he has to depart at the age of 54, he must leave this world. And later he says, Swarambakam prati samikshata eva sasuhu. So, Swarambakam prati samikshata eva sasuhu. He has to remain together with the pranas. As the pranas, with the pranas, one word I can say is prana means the 5 different sheets. Annamaya, Manovaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya, Pranamaya. These 5 different sheets of the layers of the body, the person works. The work is originated at the same time. And what will be Prarambhakam Pratisabhikshita Eva Sasuhu? He would remain in this prana as per his lifetime, as per mentioned in the destiny. And later Bhagavan says, Tapsa Pravancha Diruka Samadhi Yogaha Santa Punanda Bajre Pradibuddha Vastuhu. To one who has attained the stage of Samadhi, Santa Punanda Bajade, he won't care about the body. Because the body is ceasing to exist. The body is temporary. By his sheer knowledge, Tatsa Prabuncha Adhirukta Samadhi Yogaha. He attains the state of Samadhi. Swanta Pudanda Bajade Idi Buddhi Dosuhu. He attains the stage such that he won't attach himself with the body and it changes. What does it look at? Prati Buddha Vastu Swarambhaka Prati Buddha Vastu, which looks like a dream. If a person dreams that in his dream he sees that he has won the gold medal, the moment he wakes up, he sees that this is not a Maidan and this is not a place, this is not a running race. How does he know that? When he comes to the stage of when he was awakened. The similar way, the jnani is awakened such that whatever happens to the body, its lifetime, its death, and its date of departure, they don't care. And they won't lament that my body is paining and I'm suffering from cancer, I'm suffering from acute myocardial infarction. And all those things doesn't come into their mind because Swarambhakam Pratibhakam Pratibuddha Vastuho. Sorry. Swapnam Punanna Bhajade Pratibuddha Vastuho. It will look like a dream to them, which Bhagavan gave a full detailed Upadesha, that is the teaching of Hamsa, to Sanakadika, and later Tairagam Pujita Samyak Samchuta Paramarsibihi Pratyaya Swakam Dama Pashataha Parameshtinaha, and which Bhagavan later he concludes that Tairagam Pujita Samyak. But by by those by worshipping the Hamsa who had initiated, who gave an Upadesha to the Sanakadika, Samstutaha Paramarshibhi. Pratyaya Swakam Pashyata Parameshchinaha. Then Bhagavan, before the eyes of Brahma, he has attained it to the same abode, and at the same result, the Sanakadika's doubts were quenched. With that, I conclude this upanyasam. The benefit, once again, I say in the conclusion of upanyasa, is that if one who listens to the teachings of Hamsopadesha, then the person would be free from delusions and he would develop unwavering devotion towards Radha and Krishna. With that, I conclude this upanyasam. Sarvatra Govindanama Sankirtanam Govinda Govinda Sadguru Maharaj ki Jai. Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama.